Rise to all of you viewers of Equinoxe Television. It's 6 p.m. in Bafang in the west region of the country. It's time for the news. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Our major stories right away. Heads of states of CEMAC sub-region have adopted a host of concerted reforms to avoid an economic and financial crisis in the CEMAC sub-region. Adopted at the end of an extraordinary summit in Yaoundé, Cameroon, the heads of state agreed to jointly ensure their import. Economic analysts say these measures must be implemented in order to avoid an economic meltdown in the CEMAC sub-region. We will be telling you more in this edition. And in Cameroon, in Bamenda, we will be telling you exactly what happened as a self-proclaimed prayer warrior took off the oxygen mask of a patient, which led to the death of the sick lady. Our reporter Mbu Stella is on standby, and we are hoping to have the details tonight. And in sports, President Pro Biya and 3 other Cameroonians, including an assistant referee, have been awarded the prestigious CAP Awards, which took place in Marrakech, Morocco. Viewers, those are our major stories. Details when we come back. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for the confidence. We begin with these human interest stories. This one in Buea, a level 400 student of the University of Buea has died in a car accident at the Moki Garage entrance. Boris, 24-year-old, died in the course of a skating exercise with friends. As a result of the death of Boris, inhabitants are calling for the vigilance of the Buea authorities. Sumanji Kangebruna takes us to Buea.
Inhabitants of Buea, particularly those around the Moki Garage entrance, were all speechless after a young man by name Boris, 24 years old, was brutally snatched by death. Sources said the final year student of the University of Buea, who reads performing arts, was accompanying a dance group while skating alongside his friends when the incident occurred. They hung behind this brewery truck, and as it was moving, the one who died attempted to collect something from a friend when he missed it, and the tires of the truck took him unaware.
The one way died, he shows his hand for take something from his friend, then he mess up. So tire catch the foot, then take it under the tire. As a result of the shock, the helmet and other protective gadgets that Boris used all were broken, while some of his friends were immediately discouraged as they removed their protective gadgets. The elements of the public security who were informed about the incident quickly descended to the scene to start investigation. Circulation around the accident scene was also disturbed for some hours before cars started moving. After the police officers finished working, the body of Boris was taken to the mortuary, pending funeral arrangements by family. But at the same time, Buea denizens are begging on local authorities to act swiftly to put order for lives to be saved.
Sad indeed. Back in Douala at the Ndokprasi neighborhood in the Douala 3 subdivision, some children aged between 2 and 5 perished in a fire incident which happened in the house. According to reports, the parents locked up the children in the house and went out. Details with Cedric Chakutio, who was in Ndokprasi today.
A pair of shoes, clothes and house furniture into ashes are the remains of a fire incident that broke in a house at Ndokprasi 3 behind the public primary school of the locality in the Douala 3 subdivision.
At 2:40 a.m., I noticed that my house was very hot. I thought it was the weather, so I later fell asleep. I suddenly woke up after hearing people shouting, "Fire, fire!" I carried my 3 kids out of the room just to notice that fire had engulfed the closest building.
In the house was the lifeless body of 2 children aged between 2 and 5 years old who, according to report, perished in the fire incident while looking for a safety path. I arrived here very early in the morning the next day when the fire was controlled, looking for important objects. In my research, I fell on human bones and I immediately knew that these were the remains of the kids in the house because no one knew where they were. From there, I immediately called the parents. The mother, back at the house the following day, explains how her kids could be found alone in the house. According to Solange, the neighbor, the father left the two children home and went out to have fun with his friends.
The father of the children is an artist. He came back home at 4 a.m. after taking part in a ceremony where he performed. He was so shocked seeing that his house was on fire.
Parents are advised never to lock up children at home and leave them on their own for whatever reason. Now we talk something else. Heads of state of the CEMAC sub-region, we told you on the headlines, have adopted a host of concerted reforms to avoid an economic and financial crisis in the sub-region. Adopted at the end of an extraordinary summit in Yaoundé, Cameroon, the heads of states agreed to jointly ensure their imports. Economic analysts on their part say these measures must be implemented in order to avoid the collapse of the economy of the sub-region. For me, Armstrong Sander with the details.
At the end of the extraordinary CEMAC summit in Yaoundé, Cameroon, the heads of states of the sub-region adopted a series of measures aimed at avoiding an economic and financial crisis. Economic commentator and writer Njamshe Chodokiga sees the measures as interesting.
The resolutions of the extraordinary summit of the heads of state of CEMAC are really interesting. Talk of accelerating the rate of structural reforms, diversifying the economy, ensuring budgetary discipline, improving the business climate, mobilizing resources from partners, improving the macroeconomic situation, and improving public finance.
CEMAC has been on for over 30 years, and the economic writer says the non-implementation of major resolutions as such has dealt a serious blow to the growth of the sub-region.
Resolutions, if implemented, will go a long way to improve on the lives of the people of the 6 countries that make up the CEMAC sub-region. The president of Cameroon decried the attitude of feet dragging. Without solidarity, commitment, and determination, it will be difficult to see these resolutions fully implemented. For the past couple of years, the spirit of unity has not really been there amongst the member countries. Without a firm resolution and more commitment towards implementing these resolutions, we might be talking about the same things in some few years to come.
He explains why and how the failure to implement these resolutions could lead to the collapse of the economy of the sub-region.
This sub-regional bloc boasts of huge oil potential, as well as non-oil revenue potential, such as forestry, fishery, agriculture, minerals, and metals. The CEMAC sub-region has been facing the problems of inflation, which has largely been above 3%. In 2022, it was 5.5%, 2023 was 4.8%, and it still stands above 3%. The GDP was 3.61% in 2023, and the foreign subsidies stood at about 1.5% of the GDP. This is a context where the global economy is still uncertain, and the human development indicators of the member countries of this CEMAC sub-regional bloc are not really attractive as it stands.
The heads of state of the sub-region at the end of the Yaoundé conclave renewed the commitments of state in favor of a prudent debt policy favoring concessional financing.
We stay in economics. The office of the president of Cameroon is working to promote its own candidates for the top African Development Bank seat, despite having officially supported Chad's contender. Paul Biya's advisors can't seem to agree on a candidate or a name with less than 2 months to go before the closing dates for the applications of who to preside at the African Development Bank. Yaoundé is urging closer to presenting its own candidate. Such a move would come as a surprise to Chad's contender Abbas Mahamat Toli. Babila Jonathan with greater details.
Cameroon and Chad are neck to neck over the presidency of the African Development Bank. Since July this year, Cameroonian diplomats have been pushing for economist Albin Zefak to take over the presidency of the African Development Bank instead of the former governor of the Bank of Central African States, whose candidacy is supported by the Chadian government. From the start of the year, the Cameroon government had led neighboring Chad to believe that it will be supporting Abbas Mahamat Toli's candidacy to head the African Development Bank. But Cameroonian diplomats have been actively promoting another candidate, Albin Zefak, who is currently the World Bank's director for the Democratic Republic of Congo, Angola, Burundi, and Sao Tome and Principe. They are keen to see Zefak take over the role from Nigeria's Akinwumi Adesina when he leaves next August. This position is said to have annoyed Chad's President General Mahamat Idris Deby. The Chadian president has been lobbying hard in support of Toli's candidacy. Toli has won the support both of the Economic and Monetary Community of Central Africa, CEMAC, and the Economic Community of Central African States, ECAS, and therefore officially Cameroon. Zefak's candidacy risks dividing the Central African countries and could jeopardize the chances of the CEMAC sub-region to lead the institution, even though a post should theoretically go to an ECAS national.
Now we take you to the Far North region in Maroua, where the senior divisional officer during a sensitization campaign has urged the residents to join hands collectively to restore cleanliness and ensure proper waste management across the city or the town of Maroua. This is because of the very filthy nature of the town recently. Mala Glory now takes us to Maroua.
Indiscriminate refuse dump on major roads and street corners, blocked drainage system posing a significant risk of flooding. We are in Maroua in the Far North region, where incivility has become part of daily life and the filthiness of the town has been blamed on the population.
Inviting population to be careful, to keep care our infrastructure in the town. They have to observe all the reglementation concerning protection of our infrastructure.
In response to the growing crisis, the senior divisional officer has pledged to implement strict measures to address the situation. Aside sanctioning those who will go against the rules, so that some traders will also avoid spreading their foodstuff on the street. This was during a sensitization campaign led by the senior divisional officer alongside the mayor and other security officials to call on residents to take greater responsibility for their environment and to maintain the town's aesthetics during this festive season.
Before we move on to sports, we sincerely apologize for reasons beyond our control. We won't be having the reports from the Bamenda Regional Hospital today. So we'll be having that in greater details in our subsequent news editions. In sports, 3 Cameroonians, including the head of state, President Paul Biya, were amongst those who went back home with the prestigious CAF Award that took place in Morocco. That was yesterday. Immaculate Fogui unveils names of the winners of this year's 2024 edition of the CAF Awards.
Few Cameroonians were the spotlight of the 2024 CAF Awards that took place at Palais de Congrès in Marrakech, Morocco. Elvis Nupue emerges winner of the award of Best Assistant Referee. Meantime, Andrew Nana features on the list of Best African 11 Players of the Year. And finally, His Excellency President Paul Biya was offered the Outstanding Achievement Award. The Super Falcons of Nigeria were able to grab the award of Best Women Team, while the male category went to the Elephants of Ivory Coast. Ademola Lukman from Nigeria got the award of Men's Player of the Year, with Barbara Banta from Zambia designated with the award for the female category. Ronwen Williams was crowned to the best men's interclub player, with Sanga Msundi from Morocco winning the female category. Nigeria's Chiamaka Nandozie emerged winner of the best women's goalkeeper, with South Africa's Ronwen Williams winning that of the male category. Ivory Coast Emerse Faye got the best coach of the year award, with Lamia Boumedi of TP Madzebe getting that of the female category. The young player of the year was handed over to Lamine Camara from Senegal, with Doa El Madani from Morocco getting the award in the females category. The Club of the Year award went to the football powerhouse Al Ali, with Tout Puissant Mazembe, Democratic Republic of Congo, getting that of the female category. Sana Msundi from Morocco was voted winner of the Interclub Player of the Year, with Robert Williams from South Africa getting the award in the male category.
Thanks, Immaculate. On that sports note, we come to the end of the first part of the news. Let's now move on to talking points. Welcome back, viewers. Our guest tonight is Charles Nana. He is a political analyst and also a former senatorial candidate in the US of A. Thank you, Senator, for accepting to be our guest tonight on Talking Points. In Cameroon, heads of states of CEMAC member countries just ended their extraordinary session in Yaoundé. The main objective was to evaluate the economic and monetary situation of the sub-region, with the present, let's say, the huge debt and underdevelopment of these countries, of the CEMAC member countries. Can we say the objectives of these frequent meetings of CEMAC member countries should be reconsidered for the betterment of the various states?
I have to ask, what was the purpose of the meeting? The meeting was initiated by France and the International Monetary Funds. They have come to the sub-region and is telling them, letting them know that the loans that you took, the loans that we gave you to help development in your countries, it's time to repay them. But unfortunately, these countries are unable to pay their loans. There is no money in the country. In simple language, there is no money in the CEMAC region. And the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, is saying, gentlemen, they are at the door knocking. They say, gentlemen, it is time. I need my money, and I need my money now. And those governments don't have money to pay. And that is why one of the reasons you might have noticed that lately in Cameroon there was a new tax code that is asking or has expanded the tax basket. So they're taxing now almost everybody, including our grandmothers in the village who don't make anything. They're taxing the unemployed who don't make anything. Meanwhile, we have resources, we have opportunities where they can tax. They can go to Article 66 of the Cameroon Constitution, where they requested every member of government, certain member of government, declare their assets. Then they can tax those assets. But no member of government has declared their assets, so they cannot go and tax those assets. But now they want to go to the common man who does not have any mechanism to evade those taxes and want to tax them. But let's be crystal clear. It's due to the incompetency of those that have been running the affairs of the country. Right? We depend heavily on imports. We import almost everything. We import almost everything. And then the things that we make, we don't consume. We consume the things that we don't make, which means that even our reserves that we have overseas, we're consuming those reserves. And there's no production. The money that we got from the International Monetary Fund, those money just evaporated. Let's take the money that was used to do stadiums for the African Nations Cup. You have stadiums like Olembe that is still under construction. You have COVID Gate. They gave us billions of francs CFA. That money evaporated. It was divided among a few people and the money evaporated. Severe mismanagement and incompetency is the root of it. Changing the currency from CFA to John Doe or to Bianga will not help much. Changing currency on its own does not solve the problem. Zaire used to have its own currency, but what was the situation in Zaire? One Zaire was $1 was like 5 million Zaire. So changing the currency is not the solution. The solution is mismanagement.
Now, Charles, Nana, you were already talking about the currency issue, the franc CFA. Now, coming back to the issue of financial dependency on the franc CFA, which is being controlled from France. We all know that even France itself does no longer make use of the franc CFA as a legal tender. Why is Cameroon, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, and other member states find it hard to break away from the French francs?
The money every country uses is generally an issue of national sovereignty. Unfortunately, the CFA, which is being used in those countries in the sub-region, do not belong to Cameroon. It's made by France. And secondly, when we say currency is an issue of national sovereignty, which means we have our own monetary policy. But Cameroon and countries in the region do not have a monetary policy because they do not have their own currency. They rely on currency handed down to them by France. Now, the challenge we have, the issue is not the CFA itself. It's not the currency itself. The issue is that it's being managed by a different government. And even worse now, that it's being managed by France, which has its own money, it has its own financial crisis as we speak. Since the Ukraine war, the reserve that we have within the French central bank has been diminishing excuse me, with time, which makes it harder for France to do much. So they come back now to the African countries and say, hey, the reserve we had, we've used some of it, and not only France. Now the IMF is also coming and saying, hey guys, you borrowed money for development projects, you need to pay back. It's time to pay for those projects. And unfortunately, all our indicators, all our financial indicators in the sub-region are red. And that is why the Ministry of Finance this year opted to expand its tax opportunities or expand its tax basket, and expanded tax now to the unemployed, to the grandmothers in the village to collect money. Meanwhile, they have easier path or assets or places where they can tax, like Article 66 of the Cameroon Constitution, which says tax every director or minister should declare their assets. They can go now and tax those assets. They'll make tremendous amount of taxes by taxing those assets of the rich. But unfortunately, they don't want to do that. But they instead want to go to the poor of the poorest, and tax them and collect whatever they can collect from them. So the level of mismanagement is one of our biggest problems in the sub-region. Cameroon is a little bit better. Cameroon has 40% of its external debt to GDP, 40%. But there are other countries in the region that are completely suffocating with over 90% of external debt relative to GDP. So the situation is very, very alarming. I wouldn't be surprised that within the near future, immediate near future, we'll be talking about a devaluation of the CFA. And then we can decide we want to change the name of the currency, we want to get new currencies, but it won't be far-fetched if they begin discussing seriously another devaluation of the franc CFA in the near future.
Thank you so much, Charles Nana, for accepting to be our guest and talking point tonight. You were talking to us from the US of A, and just to let our viewers know that you are a political analyst and also a former US Senate candidate. Hope to have you some other times, sir. Viewers, thank you so much for always being with us. Our programs continue tonight. Equinoxe tour comes up in about 32 minutes or so with Serge along to live from Douala, and then using the French language comes up. That would be at 8 p.m. with Julien Beth Bisay. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television and see you again tomorrow same time. Bye-bye for now.